Chapter 15, Managing Marketing Channels and Supply Chains. In this section, we will focus on learning objectives 1 and 2 to explain what is meant by a marketing channel of distribution and why intermediaries are needed, and also to distinguish among traditional marketing channels, electronic marketing channels, and different types of vertical marketing systems. The case study at the beginning of the chapter focuses on Callaway Golf and their distribution system. Basically, how do they get their product from manufacturer to customer? Ernie Els and other professional and amateur golfers use Callaway golf equipment, accessories, and apparel when playing their favorite sport. So a little bit of background about Callaway Golf. Callaway Golf is one of the most recognized and highly regarded companies in the golf industry, designing and delivering golf products for golfers of all skill levels. Callaway Golf has annual sales approaching $1 billion. They are committed to product innovation, and they have broad distribution in the United States as well as more than 110 countries. Callaway Golf markets its products through outlets that sell quality golf products and provide the appropriate level of customer service to over 15,000 on and off-course golf retailers. Sporting good retailers that sell Callaway products are places like Golf Galaxy, Dick's Sporting Goods, and PGA Tour Superstores. In addition to the outlets that sell their products, Callaway also has their own online store. And it has made Callaway a successful multi-channel marketer, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation. And it's useful for consumers who look for accessories or apparel and know their preferred golf club specification. So they already know, what type of golf clubs they like, the length, the flight, all those different things. Callaway Golf considers its marketing channel partners a very valued marketing asset. So when Callaway opened their online store, it paid very careful attention on how it could satisfy the customer, and it does so in a way that didn't violate their relationships with their loyal trade partners. So they didn't want to start their online store, have customers buying from them, and then not going to the outlets and retailers where people previously purchased their products. So when a customer makes an online purchase from Callaway, Callaway lets one of the retailers get the credit for the sale. The retailer then fulfills the buyer's order within 24 hours, and consumers, retailers, and Callaway Golf all benefit from this arrangement. Callaway has designed a very lean, specific, efficient distribution system, and that is part of what makes them extremely successful in getting products to their customers. So what exactly are marketing channels and why are they important? Well, it's important for companies to reach their prospective buyers, whether they do it directly or indirectly. It is a prerequisite for successful marketing. If you can't get your product to the consumer, you're not going to be successful. So let's first start by defining what a marketing channel is. A marketing channel consists of individuals and firms involved in the process of making a product or service available for use or consumption by consumers or industrial users. If you take a look at figure 15-1, what you'll see here is marketing channels make possible the flow of products and services from a producer through intermediaries to a buyer. Intermediaries are basically companies, organizations that are in between the organization selling the product and then the end user. Some intermediaries purchase items from the seller, store them, and resell them to buyers. Others represent the sellers but don't actually take ownership of the product. So if you look at figure 15-1, there's a variety of terms used for marketing intermediaries that vary in specificity and use in customer and business markets. The different terms for these intermediaries are middleman, agent or broker, wholesaler, retailer, distributor, and dealer. What I would like you to do at this point is please pause the video and take a few minutes to review the graph, read the descriptions of each of the different types of intermediaries to see so that you can see what the difference is between them. It's important to understand these intermediaries because there is extreme value that is created by the intermediaries when looking at distribution channels for organizations. The importance of these intermediaries is made clear when we consider the functions that they perform and the value that they create for buyers. So there are 3 important functions that are performed by intermediaries. They are transactional functions, logistical functions, and facilitating functions, which we'll take a look at on the next slide. But it's really important to really understand the utilities received by consumers through this value that intermediaries create. Okay, marketing channels help create value for consumers through those utilities that we had discussed way back in the beginning of the semester: time utility, place utility, form utility, and possession utility. And just to provide a review of these, okay, these intermediaries help provide time utility because they can make the product or service available when the customer wants it. Place utility, making sure the product or service is available where consumers want it. Form utility, enhancing an offering to make it more appealing to buyers, okay, the product itself, changing the product, adding features and functions. And then, of course, possession utility, which is helping buyers take possession of a product or service. It's really important to understand the utilities received by consumers by having efficient distribution channels that more often than not use some type of intermediary. It is critical for you to understand how those utilities apply. If you need to go back and review those utilities, please do. So figure 15-2 focuses on the important functions that are performed by intermediaries, and you can pause the video and take a few minutes and read through all the activities that are related to the functions. But these three basic functions are transactional, logistical, and facilitating. Okay, with a transactional function, that involves buying, selling, and sharing risk with the producer by stocking merchandise in anticipation of sales. So a company, a retailer like Target, would provide a transactional function. So they would take Sony's products and services and stock them and sell them to the end consumer. So they would buy the product, sell the product, and share the risk with Sony. That would be transactional function. A logistical function involves gathering, sorting, and dispersing of products to buyers. This is somebody like Amazon. They serve a logistical function because they gather all the products, they sort them, and they disperse them to buyers. And then facilitating functions assist producers in making the transaction of goods and services more attractive for buyers. So they make the transaction easier, they make the purchase easier, they make delivery easier. All three functions must be performed in a marketing channel, even though each channel member may not participate in all three. Okay, so even if Target doesn't necessarily fulfill the transactional, logistical, and facilitating function, the market channel from Sony to the end user has to include all three of those functions. And channel members often negotiate about which specific functions they're going to perform and for what price. Because don't forget, the intermediaries aren't just doing this for free. Okay, they make money and they make profit off of being part of these marketing channels. So it's really important that they negotiate what functions they're going to perform and what they're going to get paid for that. It's also extremely important to understand when you're looking at marketing channels and supply chains that products can take many routes from a producer to the buyer. There's not just one method that works. There's many different ways that they can do this. And there are differences between marketing channels for consumer products and those for business products, but for our purposes, we're specifically focusing on marketing channels for consumer products and services. So what you'll see on the screen here is there are really two different types of channels that can be used, a direct channel and an indirect channel. A direct channel is a marketing channel where a producer and ultimate consumer deal directly with each other. So if I go to Sony to purchase a camera, okay, that would be direct. I go on Sony's website, I order the product, they get it to me. Okay, that's a direct channel, because there are no intermediaries. And because there are no intermediaries, the producer must perform all channel functions. Okay, so the producer performs the transactional function, the logistical function, and the facilitating function because they're going direct to consumer. The second type of channel is an indirect channel. Indirect channels are marketing channels where intermediaries are inserted between the producer and the consumer, and we're going to look at a slide, a graphic in the next slide that details out for you these different types of channels. So intermediaries are inserted between the producer and the consumer, and they perform numerous channel functions, the transactional, logistical, and facilitating functions. So one channel that's available is from the producer to the retailer to the consumer channel. Okay, so if you look back to figure 15-1 that broke down for you the different types of intermediaries, here we're going producer to retailer who is the intermediary, to the consumer channel, and this is the one that's most common. So if the retailer can buy large quantities from a producer when the cost of inventory makes it too expensive to use a wholesaler, then they can decrease the cost to the end consumer. So why would there be no wholesaler? Well, so many product variations may exist that it would be impossible for a wholesaler to stock all the models required to satisfy buyers. The cost of maintaining an inventory would be too high, and large retailers buy in sufficient quantities to make it cost-effective for a producer to deal with only retail intermediary. Another type of indirect channel is the producer to the wholesaler, to the reseller, and then to the consumer channel. This is very common for low-cost, low-unit value items that consumers frequently purchase, like Mars candy bars. And then the fourth type of indirect channel is from the producer to the agent, to the wholesaler, to the reseller, to the consumer channel. And they use this when there are many small manufacturers and many small retailers. An agent is used to help coordinate a large supply of the product. So if you're unsure what all these different pieces are, the retailers, the wholesalers, the agents, please refer back to Figure 15-1 for the descriptions and the function that they take care of as part of the indirect channel process. Figure 15-3 that you're currently looking at on the screen is a graphical representation of the four most common channels, distribution channels that we just discussed. So it shows the four most common marketing channels for these consumer products and services, and it also shows you the number of levels in each channel. It's based on the number of intermediaries between a producer and ultimate consumer. Okay, so as the number of intermediaries between a producer and buyer increase, the length of the channel increases. So if you look at the first section there, okay, letter A is the direct channel. It's going directly from the producer, Schwan Food, to the consumer. Okay, and then the next three are indirect channels. So channel B is the most common distribution channel, and it goes from the producer to the retailer to the consumer. So, for example, Toyota uses dealerships. They go from Toyota to the retailer or the dealer to the consumer. Channel C has additional steps. So you see you're extending the distribution channel the more intermediaries you involve. So Mars candy bars go from the company Mars to the wholesaler, then to the retailer, then to the consumer. And then last but not least is if you look at Mansar products, okay, you've got the product to the agent, to the wholesaler, to the retailer, to the consumer. So as you go from the marketing channel, from marketing channel A to marketing channel D, you're going to see the number of intermediaries between the producer and buyer increases, which means the length of the channel increases, which means it typically also costs more money and takes more time to get the product from the producer to the end user. There are also different methods and structures that can be used when developing distribution channels. So what we're going to take a look at now are electronic marketing channels, direct marketing channels, and then multi-channel marketing. Electronic marketing channels employ the internet to make products and services available for consumption or use by consumers or organizational buyers. And you'll see on the next slide in 15-5 that electronic marketing channels combine electronic and traditional intermediaries to create time, place, form, and possession utility for buyers. So again, we're going back to how do all these things impact the consumer? They provide these different types of utility to increase the value for the customer. So these electronic intermediaries perform transactional and facilitating functions effectively, and they do this at a lower cost than traditional intermediaries because of the efficiency of information technology. Electronic intermediaries are not capable of performing elements of the logistical function that actually is going to stay with the traditional intermediaries or with the producer, depending on how many intermediaries are involved in the marketing channel. Many services can also be distributed through electronic marketing channels, but others still involve traditional intermediaries. And what we've seen over time is that electronic marketing channels have become more and more prevalent because of the ease of use and the low cost. There are other methods of marketing channels also, direct marketing channels and then multi-channel marketing. If we look at direct marketing channels, these allow consumers to buy products